Michael, I have pushed your stream live now. Now
Okay.
you can also make me your co-host.
Okay.
And I will also start the recording for you once the attendees will start getting in.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hello, Leslie. Leslie, can you hear me? You can just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Or turn on your mic and let me know if you can hear me.
Michael?
Hello, Leslie. It's very soft.
Yeah, I don't know how to change the volume on my headphones.
Okay. Maybe Todd is the TA support. Todd, can you
My
help
husband's
Leslie?
here trying to help too.
Yeah, sure. Let me help her.
Okay, thanks.
Leslie, is that okay for you if I assist you in the chat?
No, he can't hear me talk. I can hear him talk fine.
So he can't hear you at all?
Yes, but I'm very soft.
Speak up louder.
Oh.
Can change the mic. setting on that. We'll have to play with that.
Okay. Can you hear me any better, Michael?
No, I just heard my name, Michael. That was all.
No, that's all. Okay.
Okay, now you are. There you are. You come in a bit louder now.
Okay.
Maybe you're speaking closer to the microphone.
I was going to say I moved the microphone on the headset. So I don't know if that's helping or not.
Okay, I can just hear you. No, I can make out what I can make out. Maybe tell me what brings you to the microgreen class, and it'll make me accustomed to your volume.
I just want to learn how to grow microgreens.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. All right. That's thanks for sharing that, Leslie. That's great. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay. We're just waiting, Leslie, a few more moments.
Thank you.
There were I think there were about 5 or 6 people booked into the class. We'll wait a minute, and if they don't come in, then we'll start, because the class is being streamed as well. Todd has streamed the class onto the internet. I'm not sure where, so we'll start the class in a moment if somebody else does not arrive. Yeah. So, Leslie, have you ever grown microgreens at all in your life, or sprouts? Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to move through the process of the class. Microgreens. So welcome to microgreens. Right, so to introduce myself, as you see on the screen, my name is Michael Plumstead, and I live in Perth, Western Australia. I'm an author, businessman, business trainer, CEO, mentor. I love gardening, and I love growing microgreens myself. So I speak largely from experience in this class, and we'll see how we go from experience to theory. Okay. As you can see, Leslie, the pictures of microgreens on the screen now are just amazing. They look so luscious. So they look great, but they also taste great. And they also have a fragrance as well, which is unique to each one, is different. Some have very little, others have very strong fragrance and taste. So what are microgreens? Microgreens are tiny little vegetables that go to anything from 1 to 3 inches, generally speaking, but not, you don't go around measuring them on purpose. And but they're basically young vegetables. If you left them, they would grow into full-grown vegetables. And so they fall somewhere between a sprout and a baby green vegetable. And the big difference between them and sprouts and even the full-grown plant is that microgreens are concentrated with nutrient content, and come in a lot of varieties and colors and textures. And I'll talk a little bit about that, excuse me, during the class as we move through the various slides. Feel free, if you want to interrupt and ask a question, or if you want to type a question onto the chat page, then you know, we can address those as well. And don't forget that Todd is in class as well. He's a TA, and he's there to help any attendee in class with any aspects. He's very obliging. So welcome, Todd, and thanks very much. Right. Types of microgreens. Now, where you get types of vegetables, you basically get the same types or categories of microgreens as well. So what you can see on the screen now are 6 different categories of vegetables, but there are also 6 different categories of microgreens as well. And in the first line, the sort of cabbage family, which consists of cauliflower and broccoli and watercress and so on. They have things in common, and we'll see some of those things as we move through the class today. And so does each category. The second one is the aster family, like lettuce and chicory and the words you see on the screen too. The carrot family, which includes dill and fennel and of course carrots themselves. And then the second last one there, or the third last one, I think it's allium, which is garlic, onion, and leek. And then the second last now is the green leafy type of microgreens and vegetables too. And then finally the gourd family with melon and cucumber and squash. So I start with that just so that you're aware that there are different categories, and different categories basically mean different aspects. Like certain categories will be more dominant with flavor, a sharper flavor. Others will be more dominant in certain nutrients, and we will be talking about those in this class. So please feel free. What you see now in the image are radishes, and they are particularly a special microgreen. And I'll talk more about radishes as we move on into the class. So basically, what is the difference between a sprout and a microgreen? From the image, you can see on the left are sprouts, on the right are microgreens. And so visually, they clearly are very different. And microgreens with their green leaves are grown in soil or in a medium other than just sprouting in air like sprouts do. And we will mention that in the class as well. Sprouts are not planted in soil or in anything for that matter. As I'm sure we've all done it before. We've sprouted in bottles, wet them and aired them and wet them again until they sprout. Now, light is an issue with both of them, but more so with microgreens. And your microgreen, because of the green leaves, need as much light or artificial light or grow light, okay, as long as they have light. Ventilation is another issue. Once they have sprouted and growing, microgreens need lots of fresh air around them and lots of light around them. So ventilation becomes quite an important aspect as you move through it. Although you use the same seeds for both sprouts and microgreens, you do grow many more seeds as microgreens than sprouts. And the reason for that is that certain seeds, like when you eat a sprout, you're eating the seed and the sprout. The seed is not appropriate to be eaten in a sprout. With microgreens, you never eat the seeds regardless. So you're always eating the greens. So you don't pull it out of the ground and eat it, seed and all, but we'll talk and show you some examples of harvesting it. You also get things like cereals and rice and oats and wheat and corn and barley and those sort of things that you can also sprout. And chickpeas. Actually, I enjoy chickpeas, and but you also can do beans and lentils. But some of those that I've mentioned just now might be a little bit more difficult than the ones that are listed into the categories above. But I'll look at some microgreens that we can start, be the best ones to grow and to seed. So first of all, why grow microbeans? Okay, and the first very obvious ones is that you don't need a garden. Okay, and you can produce them inside your house. You can put them on your balcony, on your windowsill, on any room that's going to get a little bit of sun, but maybe lots of light. The brighter the light, the better. But you've got health right inside your doors, in your house, so you don't need a garden to grow your veggies when you can grow them indoors. Okay, so you can then have everything you want as far as nutrients are concerned and organic right in your home. And so you can have a superfood grown in your home rather than going through the process of growing vegetables in a garden. And because nutrients are far more nutritious than their own full-grown plants, excuse me. Okay, so practical method of ensuring availability of vital nutrients. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute, but if you are taking supplements for various reasons, a variety of different microgreens will cover all the nutrients that is required, including the essential amino acids and things like that. So it's a really good way to get your nutrients, or a diversity of microgreens. So let's look at some of the health benefits. The main benefit, if you had to look at broad categories, it's polyphenols. These are have a whole lot of subcategories, and I'll mention some of them as we look at some of the microgreens. But the most important and the broadest one for senior people particularly is that antioxidants, which fall under this category of polyphenols, are abundant in microgreens. And so the antioxidants then stop and deal with the free radicals that run around your body and causing damage and to your cells, and allowing diseases to. As you probably know, that a healthy body needs a healthy immune system, and a healthy immune system needs a healthy microbiome. And so now this is where you might be taking supplements, but you don't know whether you're absorbing them or not. You have no idea. So if you're not absorbing them, you're taking them and they're passing through your body without being of much benefit. A microgreen will actually strengthen your microbiome. So, and if you've got a strong microbiome, that means you're going to absorb the nutrients, and you're going to then strengthen your immune system. So whether you've got a strong or weak microbiome, these microgreens are going to make a difference and strengthen and heal if it needs healing first. Okay, so the microgreens have probably the highest concentration of nutrients per calorie of any food. Okay, they are rich in sources of vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, enzymes, and as I've mentioned, antioxidants, chlorophyll, and protein. So that's also because a lot of people believe you only get protein from meat. that is not the case. Okay, so these little mites, these little microgreens, have substantially greater health and benefits than raw fruits and vegetables. Okay, so 1 ounce of broccoli microgreens is about the equivalent of 1.5 pounds of mature broccoli. So you can see that you can get a lot more in a small quantity of vibrant, nutrient-dense microgreens. Okay. So eating high polyphenols is terribly important. It's a good food to start with, and fresh microgreens of all kinds are loaded with these phytonutrients, and they are shown to lower cholesterol, triglyceride symptoms of like rheumatoid arthritis, Alzheimer's disease, cancer, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and of course builds the strong microbiome in your gut. So probably the one I haven't mentioned is heart. It's powerful in assisting the heart to stay strong and giving it the nutrients that it needs. Okay? So yeah, it is very, very dense with amazing quantity of variety of nutrients. So you can say, you know, science has proven that microgreens are substantially more nutrient dense than the full-grown product, which I've said. But, you know, the least of the experiments have shown that microgreens is 4 times more nutritious. But other experiments have shown that it's 50 times more nutrient dense. So the bottom line is you're getting more nutrients in microgreens than you do in the full-grown plants. Okay, so let's start with these seeds. Now, I've suggested these seeds for a reason, and that they're easy to grow. They have a great variety of nutrients in them, and they look different, they taste different, and they have a different feel to them. Okay, and as I said, now they're easy to grow. So let's just look at them and talk about them, because I'm sure that most of these, the average person who does anything with nutrition recognizes that, say on the extreme left at the top there, the coriander. Now the coriander is a source of dietary fiber. Quite a few of the microgreens are, but the coriander also has manganese, iron, and magnesium. Okay, all things that our body needs. They're also, the leaves are also rich in vitamin C, K, and believe it or not, in protein. So, you know, they contain small amounts of other chemicals like calcium and so on, but they are in smaller amounts in the coriander. They are in larger quantities in others. Yeah, so you get again these microorganisms like lutein, which is a powerful flavonoid, which is part of the polyphenol family, but it's big in helping people deal with cancer and cancer prevention, and even the recovery of chemotherapy. So the coriander has really a special place, I think, in microgreens, and it's always good. You can you'll grow a mixture probably, and but you'll probably find that for those particular reasons, coriander is a good one to always have around there. It does have its own unique taste, and that may not be, you know, you may not like that, but it doesn't taste dissimilar to the full-grown plant, perhaps a bit milder. Yeah. Then you get the second one in the images there, the broccoli. they have large quantities of magnesium in them, and manganese and copper and zinc. These are all very essential minerals that often, when we get to our age, the older generation are deficient in. And we still got to have them. Okay. Then next to that is the basil. Excuse me, I just have a drink of water. But the basil microgreens are a good source. I said that coriander had some, but basil is a good source of protein. And so if you are vegetarian or vegan or so on, then that's a good one to have on your plate on a regular basis. It also has vitamin E and riboflavin and niacin, and it's a very good source of dietary fiber as well. Remember I said coriander was, but so is basil. And it has vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin K, B6, folate, and calcium, iron, magnesium, and so on, okay, including zinc, copper, and manganese. So the basil is quite a powerhouse when it comes to a variety of nutrients. I've also allowed a couple of microgreens to grow to full-grown plants. I then planted them into. So we got somebody. Todd, won't you just mute that? It's a background noise. Thank you. So with basil, we've got a really powerhouse, and I allow them to get to full-grown plants in pots as well, just occasionally. So you've got the microgreens, but then once you've grown it in a pot, you've got it for, I don't know, I've had mine for about 2 years. Maybe it's going to be longer, but for at least 2 years, you can grow them in a pot, in a smaller sort of pot, okay, with the average medium-sized flower pot, and then of course you use the leaves from those. Not as powerful as the microgreen. The microgreen is far more powerful as far as the nutrients I've mentioned for that. And as you come across to the right top there, chai, the chai seed, we've always sort of been told that the chai is a superfood on its own, and it's great for fiber and protein for sure, and they do make a very healthy, a whole variety of different nutrients put together differently as another microgreen. So you can eat the chai seed by itself. You could grow it into a microgreen when it's more powerful, because now it's got the green leaves, and the green leaves are producing more nutrients from the light and the sun into the leaves and into the plant itself. Very good for digestive function, the chai seeds, and it helps manage diabetes too. So that's the chai seed. But I'm not going to go through all of them, but on the bottom left-hand corner, you saw that picture earlier on, or that image earlier on in this class, the radishes. Okay, now the radish not only contains A, B, C, E, K vitamins, they also deliver calcium and iron and magnesium and phosphorus and potassium and zinc. Sure. And that's not all. Okay, radishes are rich in essential amino acids, the only one that has all of them, and chlorophyll as well. So radishes, we sort of almost look down on them sometimes because they're so quick and easy to grow, and they've got a unique taste of their own, and but they are amazing. So those 8 seeds that you see there are starting points. They could be starting points. A mixture of them could be a starting point. Now, you would buy your seeds from online, okay, because you're not likely to have a shop just around the corner. So online you can get all different types of combinations and seeds that that you see in the images on your screen now. And they will also offer you different sort of like kits. And if you're not used to microgreens or you haven't grown microgreens historically, then a kit's a good place to start. Because they're not going to ship soil around, they're going to give you other mediums in which to grow your microgreens on. And all of them are just as good as the other. So it's absolutely fine to use those kits and whatever they're offering you. It's usually a coconut shell that's been crushed to form a mat or sort of a type of soil. So those are good, but they're not the only places to start. You know, you can start with something that is perhaps a vegetable that's your favorite that you want to start with, and you'll be able to look at that and see a lot of different seeds. Find out your supplier when you're buying your seeds online. You know, what are they recommending in your geographical area? Okay, so that might come in very handy. You might also choose seeds because of 3 different aspects, and one of those aspects is the crunch. You know, pea shoots, for example, are juicy and crunchy, and they taste just like the pea of the pod. You take out of a micro pea, a baby pea out of the pod. Lovely, fresh, but so are bean shoots. You might decide to, you know, take it from the color. You know, many chefs in restaurants are working with color on your plate when you go and order something at a restaurant, and some have a bright color, and they might also just add them because it's appropriate for whatever dish you're eating. So you put that on, and so there are all types of colorful microgreens, and some have a little bit of fur on them, which looks great. So yeah, and some just have a neutral taste and they're colorful. Okay, but certainly strong tastes are something that you will find in some of the microgreens. They have a strong and punchy taste. And so if you're looking for a microgreen that you can't miss, then look to the herbs first. There are microgreens grown from the herb microgreens, like cilantro that we spoke about earlier, and chives and fennel and sorrel are all really strong tasting microgreens, but they're also healthy, and you might be one that really enjoys that type of okay. Right. How to harvest microgreens. Let me just get you to a point here. How to harvest. You see on your screen at the moment, there's an image of a microgreen, just a random microgreen. Okay. Now, you may not be aware, but microgreens can be harvested more than once. So you can maybe get 3 or 4 harvests off one seed, off one microgreen plant. So to do that, it's always best to leave the very lowest 2 leaves on the microgreen when you harvest them. So if you see in the image here, and if you happen to see where my cursor is, if you cut above those 2 bottom green leaves, and then you eat everything above that and leave that in your soil, then your plant is going to produce another microgreen, assuming you look after it in a way that is kind and gives it just enough water and light and sunshine. All right, where to grow microgreens? You grow them indoors, anywhere indoors, on the veranda even, okay? But they need to start off in a warm, dark place where, and I'll talk more about this in a minute or show you an image of it, And it needs, until they started shooting and growing, they can be in a warm, dark place, and then go onto a windowsill and then into a sunny spot as they start getting more leaves. Okay. And you can grow them anywhere. You can grow them in seed trays or recycle styrofoam boxes or things that you take your takeaway foods in, just punch some holes in the bottom. So any container works. It doesn't, the container is irrelevant to the success of your microgreens. But the big safety tip that I need to share with you is that when you buy seed, make sure that they're untreated seeds, that they're organic seeds. You want to avoid seeds that have been fumigated or treated with fungicide, which is they do that for farmers, because by the time it protects them and by the time they become fully grown plants, the fumigation and the fungicide is virtually lost in the actual plant. But in a microgreen, it's actually concentrated. So you want to avoid any type of treated seed. And so it's best if you start with just a few seeds, experiment what grows well in your environment. Okay. Now, what I do normally with seeds, particularly the larger seeds, but not necessarily always the larger seeds, is that I soak them overnight, okay, or for about 24 hours. And so you soak them, they get a good softening up, and when you sprouted seeds, you soak them for a while, and then you threw the water out, and then you soak them again, and you did that. Here, you just soak your seeds. The tiny seeds, you don't necessarily have to soak, because you're going to soak them when you plant them anyway. But it just speeds up everything and somehow makes the germination a little bit more successful, because with every bunch of seeds, there are going to be some seeds that don't germinate for whatever reason. Okay. And so soaking them sort of helps in that process. Then you fill a container with soil, and it doesn't matter how deep the soil is. It's really irrelevant. So it can be an inch deep, right? If you want to take you then flatten it down, take out the hills and the valleys with your hand or a piece of cardboard or something. So that the seeds are now sitting very comfortably flat on a very flat surface, and they're not on top of each other either. So when you sprinkle your seeds now in step 2 all over the soil surface, they're not going to fall into valleys or sit on top of hills and then collapse on top of each other. So you can sow them and sprinkle them as far apart as you like, but you can also sow them right up to where they're touching each other. And you're just going to get a much bigger harvest from that particular harvest. But it's as long as they're not sitting on top of each other, which they won't be if you're nice and flat, okay, and that the seeds are not sticky, they dry. Or they can be wet but not sticky. Often chai seeds become a little sticky when you wet them. So I never soak chai seeds, for example. So now you sprinkle just over the surface, right over the surface of the container you're going to use. And then now the seeds are ready to not go to sleep, to wake up and sprout, okay? But they need darkness for that. So either you put more soil on top of the seeds, and then they're under the soil and they're dark, and you can then just put a tray or something on top of them as well. It doesn't matter. Or you can put a board, a wood, or something that covers the seeds, and they're still lying on top of the soil, and you've wet them thoroughly, but not enough for the water to soak to the bottom. You don't want all your soil wet. You want the soil around where it is where the seeds are. Okay, so just under the seeds, around the seeds, and on top of the seeds if you've put soil on top. And then you put them away. And if you put a board on it, usually keeps the moisture in. If you just put in other pots on top of them, then you might need to just check every day to see that it's still damp, otherwise spray them. And then once they've all sprouted out of the soil, okay, you can then remove if you've got a board on top there. And if you've got them in a dark place like a cupboard or something with soil over them, let them all sprout. See all the sprouts having sprouted, then move them to a lighter area and let them then grow their first leaves. And when they've grown their first leaves, they can get a bit of sun if you like. The sun can only add to the nutritional value to the whole process. And so step 4, they've sprouted, they're now in a ventilated, partly sun area, and now you keep feeding them for water. I use a spray can, not a watering can, because a watering can you tend to sort of water the entire soil, and you don't want to do that. There's no sense in it. You just want the new sprouts to get access to moisture around them. And so you just lightly water. You just feel the top, put your finger in the top of the soil, and if it's dry, water it. If it's dry 3 times a day, water it 3 times a day. You know, if it's still damp, and maybe you only water once a day. And then when you harvest, as I showed you earlier, above the soil level, well above the soil level. You don't want soil or the seed being part of your nutrition. Okay, so just look here now clearly at this, these different options of harvesting. You harvest with something very sharp, and it can be scissors or a knife, but well above. You can see on some of these pictures, you can actually see the green remaining. They want in a second harvest from their tray. So now, if you don't have the right light and so on, you can use a grow light. Okay, it's really they're very efficient. In the older days, and still today, but they started with the lights were tubes, but now you get LED lights that have the same lighting, and so you're able to then work with them until you're ready to harvest them. Okay, so that's how you would harvest them. I can't see any reason to store microgreens. Rather leave them on the plant and let them grow a little bit taller than harvest them and put them away, because they're going to store far better on the plant than they're going to do in the fridge. So, but if you have to, then you harvest them. You do not wash them before you put them between 2 damp bags and put them into a container that you can zip up. And they're going to be just as fresh in 7 or 8 days' time as when you put them in. And but you only rinse them, and you must rinse them just before you eat them. Okay, maintaining the moisture in the storage is the key to moving forward. All right, so now we're into a situation where we've now chosen our seeds, we've planted them, we've grown them, we've harvested them. Now we've got to eat them. And ideas for eating microgreens, you know, we're familiar, most of us, that you add them to salads, and you can garnish any dish, but you can also blend smoothies with wheatgrass and broccoli in particular. They really are a fantastic way of eating your microgreens and getting your nutrients. Then, you know, you can add them to, here's a pea shoot savory pancake with microgreens, pea microgreens on top. And on the right here, you've got yourself a roasted acorn squash microgreen, a quinoa salad. Really looking very, very good indeed. Then you can use them on desserts. I mean, there you've got a strawberry chocolate tart with some strawberry. On the right, we've got our usual spring salad where you can put anything in there, and whatever you're growing, it really is the right way to go. And then, of course, you've got all sorts of other ideas. Marvelous salad on the right there. Here we've got a soup. Okay, it's a roasted broccoli microgreen soup. Really fantastic and tasty. And you've got a bittersweet salad, and you've got roast beef sandwiches you can put them on, and so forth. Anyway, the last slide and the final tip is, it's now time to increase your chances of regrowing your nutrients on a daily basis. So please cut them properly and watch them regrow. Use them with your grandchildren. Your grandchildren love growing things and seeing the results, and microgreens are quick. Within a week, you're going to start seeing results. That other salad underneath at the bottom is a wild rice salad with microgreens in as well. So that brings us to the end of the class. I don't know if there are any particular questions that anybody would like to ask. Or Leslie, shall I say, you've been very quiet during the lesson, that's fine. But I will be sending you an email after this with the sort of takeaways from the class as well. So be aware of it, and there are other classes coming up. And here on the left is Liz, who would love to share your experiences. If you'd write her and email her, there's her email address, Liz at Get Set Up, and tell her about your experiences with Get Set Up. You're going to get some notes from me. You're going to be requested for some feedback as well. And next time you book, please invite a friend as well, because if you enjoyed it, your friend's going to enjoy it as well. And you can get all sorts of questions answered at help@getsetup. So thank you very much for joining me. Much appreciated. Bye.